Hey guys, welcome back to another sketching video with Coach K. I've got today, I'm going to do a little demo showing some techniques that are all digital, and I'll be working in Sketchbook as I normally do. But I was browsing through a really cool site called simcom.com. That's simkom.com. And really it's just a series of sketches. I say a series. There's hundreds of sketches here that you can look at and kind of get some inspiration from. So that's precisely what I did and what I wanted to do for this video. I found a sketch here, and it's by a Daniel Forsgren. And I really like the technique. It's a combination of kind of loose and tight, and that's kind of how I like to sketch. I like to communicate the fact that you're looking at a concept. You're not looking at uh, some photorealistic image, right? That's not, particularly when it comes to ideation and working with clientele, it's really important that they understand kind of the phase of the process that you're in. And really, ideation needs to be that combination. And I talk about implied realism. It needs to look real, but be loose, if that makes sense. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm focusing on. But today in this video, it's really about finding kind of an inspiration sketch, a technique that I normally wouldn't employ, but I'm going to try it out. I'm going to try to figure out what Daniel was doing when he did it. And I'm going to show it in this video so that you might get inspired as well. So in advance, thank you to Daniel for inspiring me, and hopefully you'll enjoy this sketch. See you soon. Okay, welcome back. So here is the sketch by Daniel Forsgren, and the reason I selected it was, as I mentioned in the intro, it's really kind of a neat combination of loose and tight. So you get a great idea of what his design intent is with the helmet and the goggles. But at the same time, there's kind of an emotive quality to the sketch in the sense that it's very loose. It kind of speaks more to the character of the design and the character of the user, the kind of demographic. And even though this is a loose sketch, Daniel's making sure that he gives you kind of three different angles, three different perspective views of the helmet. Actually, two of them are, in fact, orthographic views, front and side. But so really, what he is trying to do, I believe, I don't know Daniel personally, but I think he's just trying to present an attitude in the sketch. And so by doing that, it's revealed to me in the clothing, the implied kind of leather jacket, and the way that he utilizes cross hatching or hatch work, and the loose style that he uses for the indicating the hair, I think is just really fascinating. So I kind of went into my archive. I've got several anatomical drawings, both for heads and arms and torsos, that I use for underlays for sketching. And I brought in a front and side view. I wasn't really going to address the rear view of the helmet that he has. I'll be focusing more on the front and the side, like I said. And so the first thing is to bring them in and get them to the same relative scale in the drawing. Now, what I wanted to do, knowing that I'm going to have the eyes behind goggles, I wanted to have them separate so I can play with the opacity and figure out, if in fact I want to see some of the eyes, or maybe I don't know, but I kind of created a separate layer. I cut and pasted the eyes out of my original drawing and put them in as a separate layer. So you can see me kind of adjusting the opacity there. And even so, I had some of the line drawings that you'll see, I've already have on layers that I did previous to the start of the video, but I'm making certain adjustments, and having everything organized on separate layers allows me to scale things up and scale things back. What you saw me do just a second ago was actually scaling the lens of the goggles up a little bit, just to eliminate a little bit of the border that was created around them. So now I'm working on the strap detail. And really my main goal here is to create a texture, maybe something that implies a woven nylon, an elastic band that you would see normally on goggles, or even sunglasses, I suppose. But just, that's the implied realism. That's just a little hint towards suggesting what that fabric could be, without really getting into any kind of photorealistic rendering per se. So now I'm just really focusing on adding some detail, adding a little bit more line weight, making sure that the various parts read well. And so now I'll scoot up to the side view and work on that. You can see the goggles are already rendered. The eyes behind the lens, I dropped the opacity. I did the same thing, basically cut them out and pasted them back onto a separate layer. So I have that flexibility really at the end when I'm done. Then I can go in and kind of fine tune the level that I want that opacity to be. How much do you want to see? How much do you want to imply and show transparency in your sketch? So that's pretty important. Otherwise, right now, it's really about detailing. I'm going to throw some color in, selecting areas, and applying some bucket fill gradients. So again, it's helping define the form a little bit more than you would get from just the line drawing itself. And color can be exciting. I mean, color can be a suggestion to a client of what the possibilities are. It's not so much that I'm suggesting orange as the final and only option for this design. I'm just showing where a color breakup might be able to exist. In this particular area right now, I've gone in with the ballpoint pen tool because it's the most saturated tool. And when if you use the magic wand tool, sometimes it will not select the line border itself, and it will. So you'll be left with a little bit of an outline that you want to fill in. So that's kind of what I was doing there. And basically now I'm just cleaning a few things up, a few loose lines. At the end, again, I'll refer back to Daniel's drawing. A lot of it was very loose. So some of what I'm doing is kind of tight. And then ironically, at the end, I will introduce some of that looseness back into it. And that can be done several different ways. That can be done with hatch work, and also the clothing, just the slight implying of the clothing that doesn't exist yet, at least on the left hand sketch. So that will be coming up here shortly. Right now, I'm going to be doing more of that woven material, but you'll see me build this up in layers. And I've got the hatch work. Now I'm going to do a fill with kind of a medium gray. I'm searching for the right gray at the moment. And when I do, I want it to be a little bit lighter because I want to show a little bit of the shadow that would occur as it wraps underneath his chin. So that's kind of why I went with a slightly lighter to medium gray. And then now I'm going to utilize a light gray pencil stroke, and I'm utilizing Hudson Rio's collection of brushes and pens that you can download for free, and they seem to work out really well. I don't really have a strict stable of brushes or pens that I use. Most of my line work is always done with the pencil tool. I like the way that it behaves on the digital tablet. I like the way that it fades out at the end of the stroke, as opposed to, say, the ballpoint pen, which is a very, it's a dense, saturated, deliberate stroke that doesn't have, to me, doesn't have a whole lot of character. You can look at the fountain pen. It, on the other hand, it does have character because it does, although it's very saturated, it does kind of fade out. The end of the stroke fades nicely. And so back on the sketch here, I'm kind of selecting certain areas of the helmet. I don't want to fully render every aspect of the helmet. I don't want to do kind of a paint by number approach. So I'm just doing a little bit of an airbrush effect, and then I'll go back in with highlights and lowlights that you see right now. On the back of the helmet, I want to kind of imply or enhance the form a little bit more by showing a little bit of the roll around the back of the helmet. And on the front here, it's really just limited to kind of one half of the helmet, just a little bit to show, okay, anything that will help communicate the form. But again, you have to think about the nature of the sketch and what are you trying to do with this sketch? What purpose does it serve? And again, I think, as I said at the beginning of the video, to me, this is more of this is more about attitude, kind of, and that's really important, right? Because depending on who your client is, I mean, imagine you're designing for Harley Davidson. Well, there's an attitude, right? What about Vespa? What about the difference between those two companies? I mean, they couldn't be more disparate attitudes there. And so having this included in your concept sketches as an addition to, say, more product-focused sketches could be really, really important, I think. I think certain people, you can think about people in marketing, right? They have a different approach to the communicating the attitude of the company versus, say, an engineer. And so we as designers have to speak to a wide variety of people, and so I like to throw sketches like this in just to help communicate the overall intent of my design. So I noticed on Daniel's sketch he had facial hair on one of the views, and I thought, well, okay, if I look at the chin on my side profile, man, it's not all that attractive. So I'm going to try disguising a little bit of his chin and lip area with a little bit of stubble, and I think that's kind of funny. So again, that's a nod to Daniel's sketch, and so yeah, so you can the menu structure, the layer structure, I should say, on the right, because I'm compiling a video, sometimes not all of the images correspond exactly correctly, but uh, you can follow. I'll zoom in periodically on the layers menu so you can see what's going on. Right now, I wanted to, it looked like maybe the sketch on the right, his neck was a little bit too long. So I actually selected the jacket layer and brought it up a little bit to shorten the distance of his neck. And now really I'm going into the vignette, and I took a little bit, I took the influence of Daniel, but I'm implementing it differently. So you can kind of see again on separate layers, I'm selecting certain areas now. I'm kind of creating a halo effect around the sketch on the right, some directional a directional vignette that captures both and binds together the sketch on the left and the sketch on the right. And so I'll be filling that with a gray gradient tool, and then adding some additional low lights. So with a darker pencil or brush. So you can kind of see right now there's a problem exposed with that one area that was white. That was just a layering issue. And so I moved the layers around. I'm putting a little bit of accent here to help increase the contrast and maybe jump those sketches off the page a little bit more. So it's just kind of last minute embellishments really to help the overall composition. And again, thanks to Daniel. And so I'd encourage you all to kind of go out and look for inspiration sketches, and then really dissect the technique and apply it to your own designs. So you'll learn something every time you do it. I've been doing this a long time, and I still learn. So okay, good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.